Hi, everyone. My name is Jill Moore, and I'm the Executive Director of Asia Wild. Welcome, and thank you for tuning in to the launch of our first Wild Talks. This event is designed to shine a spotlight on the amazing work of our grantees and partners around the world and to allow you, our supporters, who share a passion for protecting animals, with the opportunity to hear firsthand about the work our grantees are doing. With this being our first live streaming event, we ran into a few technical difficulties and did not get the first 10 minutes of our interview with Wildlife Friends Foundation Thailand recorded last evening. So I'm going to provide a brief overview of Asia Wild and an introduction to our guest, speaker, and the work of Wildlife Friends Foundation Thailand before we move into the recording from last night. For those of you who are new to Asia Wild, I'll provide a brief overview of our history. This organization was incorporated in 2001 as a U.S. registered 501c3 nonprofit. We are a grant maker. Over the last 22 years, we have granted more than $16 million to Asian organizations dedicated primarily to rescuing Asiatic bears, ending bear bile farming, and providing sanctuary to Asian elephants and promoting cat and dog welfare throughout Asia. In 2023, the board decided to expand our mission to protect and rescue Asian animals worldwide. We now support organizations dedicated to rescuing animals from abuse and captivity, preventing poaching, illegal wildlife trade and trafficking, and of course, conservation efforts. As a grant maker, we raise funds from the general public, pool those resources together to make large targeted grants that have a big impact on the small international organizations working to protect Asian animals. Peggy Pollock, our finance and operations manager, oversees this grant process and is also monitoring the Q&A during these events. The IRS actually requires a very formal application process and reporting process for all charitable grants made outside of the United States. Therefore, we are required to obtain financials and government registration from each organization's country of origin, a detailed budget for the project that they are applying for funding for. We obtain references from our contacts and advisors throughout Asia and the international animal welfare community, all to ensure that each organization we fund is reputable and doing impactful work. The board reviews each application, and if it meets our funding priorities, they approve the grant. Each organization must then provide us with pictures and videos and periodic updates on the progress of the grant we supported, and a final grant report itemizing how all of the funds were used. Last year, I'm proud to say that we received over 25 requests for funding, and I'm excited to introduce you to our 2023 grantees. Now, that is a big list of organizations and projects. In 2023, we distributed $1.7 million in grant support to 14 different organizations in 7 countries. These projects will immediately impact 1,300 animals, but that's really just the beginning. Several projects involve construction of facilities and programs that will support thousands of animals in need in the coming years. And Wild Talks was designed so that we could spotlight each of these organizations and give you, our supporters, the opportunity to learn firsthand about the project that you supported, because without your support, many of these projects would not have moved forward this year. I will stop sharing. And so I do want to introduce you to our first guest, Edwin Wiek, the founder and director of Wildlife Friends Foundation Thailand. Edwin is Dutch born and moved to Asia in 1989 to work in the fashion industry. During his time in Thailand, he saw the terrible abuse and suffering of animals there, yet there was a complete lack of resources to do anything for them. And after several years of feeling helpless, Edwin decided to leave the fashion industry behind and follow his passion by setting up an animal rights movement where he could rescue abused and threatened wildlife in Thailand and beyond. In 2001, with the help of 2 local Thai people, Edwin founded Wildlife Friends Foundation Thailand and has never looked back. WFFT, as it's commonly referred to, is a Thai registered NGO. Their nationwide effort involves the rescue of domesticated and captive wildlife animals. The foundation sits on 88 hectares of land, which equates to just over 200 acres for those of us in the United States, and is a sanctuary home to over 900 rescued animals, including gibbons and macaques, elephants, tigers, and just about any animal that is in need of protection. In addition to being the founder, Edwin is also the director and operates the foundation with the help of a team of over 100 staff, mostly from the local community, as well as support from international volunteers who visit regularly. In addition to rescuing and providing a sanctuary home to animals in need, they also work closely with the Thai government to promote legislation and enforce laws to protect both domesticated animals and wildlife from abuse. Wildlife Friends Foundation Thailand is a partner and grantee of Asia Wilds, and thanks to your support, we provided several grants in the past few years, but in 2023, thanks to the amazing outpouring of support from our donor community, we were able to make a $100,000 grant to cover the cost of an emergency rescue of gibbons and macaques in Thailand. Edwin joined us from Thailand for this interview, where it was 6:30 a.m. for him, and he graciously provided us with insight into Wildlife Friends Foundation Thailand's work and an update on the gibbons and macaques rescue. So, with no further ado, I will allow you to move forward and join our program already in process. Thank you. Cover so many different things. How many staff do you have to accomplish all that?
People always ask me how many people work at your place, and then I say about 50%. But we employ 115 people in total at the moment.
Wow, that's incredible. Do you have a hard time finding people to work, or do you have a lot of people wanting to work? Because I know
I think the most important thing is where in the beginning, when I started working at WFFT, when I founded the place, I chose a lot of foreign people to work with us. I'm currently trying to have a better local commitment and also do work on local capacity building. So I prefer to have Thai people join us working for us instead of foreigners, which is a challenge sometimes. And working in a charity is not very common in Thailand. And if there is a charity, it's very often focused on humans, on poverty, on diseases, anything like that. And for people to work for a charity is a bit challenging sometimes in this country. Mm-hmm. But our rescue center is up country. We're 2 hours from Bangkok. It is, as an organization, better to have people locally, people that live nearby. And we actually getting now a kind of a reputation that we pay our staff well, we treat our staff well, and people don't have to move to the big cities to get a job. So I would say that when we apply, when there's applications open for jobs at the center, a lot of people apply because people like to work here, and they always bring in their family members to come and work with us as well and everything. But to shift, to basically find the best worker for the best kind of position is, of course, like everywhere, a challenge. But it's not as bad as I see in Europe currently, where I hear from a lot of people that it's very hard to find good staff. We can find staff, but then we have to basically somehow mold them into the way we'd like them to perform at work. So that takes time. So it's a basically a learning and a training process. But it's a challenge. But I would say it's coming out well at the moment. Yeah,
that's good. That's wonderful. Well, yeah. I know that everybody's anxious to hear. We provided you with that grant. A lot of people came out in support when we announced the Gibbons and Macaques the Highland Park rescue. I'd love to find out, how that rescue went, whether or not it's completed, what impact, what the history of that is, and what their lives are like now that they're living at Wildlife Friends Foundation Thailand Sanctuary.
Would you like me to give you a small introduction on how the rescue went and the history of Highland Farm? Yeah, okay.
Sure. Sure.
Highland
That
Farm,
is one of the questions. We did have questions about whether, what was the condition and was the facility that they came from taking care of them? That was one of the questions that was submitted from when people were registering. So yes, a little bit about their background and the situation at Highland Park would be great.
Highland Farm was actually registered, founded in the half 90s. So I think it was about 93, 94, 95 by William E. Dieters, an American citizen, and his Thai wife, Kun Parani. They started the rescue center after he basically retired from the Foreign Service. And it started just with one gibbon they got from someone, and they took it into the house, had it walking around the house, and eventually had to put it in a cage as it grew up. More and more animals joined in the 90s and in the 2000s, and even until about 2 years ago. William Dieters, unfortunately, was killed together with 4 of his staff and 1 child in a murder on the rescue center in 2002. In May 2002, and Parani, who wasn't at the rescue center at that day, continued to run the rescue center until she passed away in August 2022. Unfortunately, over the years, she became older, and she started to forget things, and it was very difficult to talk to her. I actually went to see her a few times in the last years, asking her what the follow-up plan was in case she wouldn't be there any longer. And she wouldn't have any of it. She was going to live at least until she was 100 years old, and I wish she did, but unfortunately she passed away. And after she passed away, we found out that there was no will. There was no handover of the foundation. As a matter of fact, the land was in her personal name, not in the name of the foundation, as we were hoping, which meant that her family could take the land back. And they did, and they didn't want the Gibbons. So we were suddenly stuck with a problem. There were almost 100 primates and 1 bear and an otter in cages on a piece of land that didn't belong to the foundation any longer. The authorities wanted to take the animals away, but they had no place to take them either. Budgets at the Thai government are usually taken 2 to 3 years before you actually get money to do anything. So that was no option. And the staff that were at the rescue center, until about a month before we went in, said that everything was going to be okay and they would find the funding to continue working. But of course, with the sister of Kun Parani wanting the land and turn it into a coffee farm, we just knew that nothing could be done. Mm-hmm. Took me a lot of lobbying. I had to do a lot of pushing with authorities to actually get the permission to take the animals. And when we finally got the green light, they gave us like 2 months. And I think you remember when we then approached to Asia Wild and said, listen, we got a problem. And you're not in Houston, because that's when you say Houston, we got a problem.
Yeah.
But we got a big problem at that time. And we contacted you, and we were, of course, delighted to say, for the least, that you wanted to help us, because the animals over there were not in a good state. They were fed a wrong kind of diet. They had really nutritionist kind of problems. Some of the animals actually died. When we arrived one day, actually, we found one animal dying and the other one already dead for more than 24 hours in an enclosure. But we at that time thought that everything was going to be still quite okay. We had no permit to put any animals under anesthesia or do a medical checkup. So everything was more like a physical checkup, touching their arms, trying to see if we could touch their bodies, hand feeding them and see if we could get close enough. But we had no permission to do anything yet. So it was very stressful, very frustrating to come to a place like that. And when we finally were given the green light to pick up the first 15 animals, we run in. I think we got the permission on Friday afternoon, and Monday morning early we were there with police and with Department of National Parks officers to take the first 15 away. A week, 10 days later, we were to pick up 15 more, and some animals went to another facility temporarily, and we're waiting currently for the permission to take those ones in as well, because already the facility where they are told the authorities already they can't keep them. Luckily, we have enough enclosures ready now to take in a lot more. Not all of them, but a lot more. So it's still in progress. But there's also good news. The animals that are currently here, that's over 30 that are already in the enclosures. The monkeys are doing extremely well. They never lived on the floor. They never had really ground under their feet. They were all single placed, and actually we start putting them together now. They're grooming each other. They're eating their food very well. They're all gaining weight, and we got some really happy faces. I'm one of those few people working in Thailand that I love macaques. They're my favorite ones. I know they don't have much value for conservation, and I know they're not very rare, but they're just funny guys. I really like them. And Gibbons, also we're setting up now pairs. So we have a few couples that are, I would say, kind of in love. We have a few Gibbons that are, doing really, really well. There's a few animals that missing limbs because of some issues about they were housed at Highland Farm in the past. The oldest Gibbons, one of them is actually 38 years old. She's doing really well. She's got a partner now of the same species. There's no way she can produce any offspring. She's too old for that, but that doesn't really matter. We don't want to breed in captivity anyway if we can't release. Right. But it's really nice to see that they're having social interaction, that they can express some natural kind of behavior again. So this is great. Some animals are on islands, some are in enclosures. I'm currently building 3 more islands for gibbons. For those people that do not really know about gibbons, gibbons are lesser apes, but nevertheless apes, and apes can't swim. So basically gorillas, chimpanzees, bonobos, and orangutans, and also gibbons can't swim, which basically gives you an option to build islands, with trees on them and everything, and they can live in a much more semi-wild kind of environment, which is amazing to see. Our chimpanzee, only one we've got here at the moment, lives on a huge island, and he loves it to climb from tree to tree and go through the high grass and all that stuff, which is something you can't do with monkeys. They will be in the water and be out of there within minutes. But with apes, with gibbons, you have that option to not have to build an enclosure, but actually have an island. I'm sitting here actually looking at an island next door. I might be able to turn my computer in a minute to show you, although it's a bit far away though. Maybe you wouldn't see it. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So the grant that Asia Wild, one of the things that we try to impart on our supporters is the importance of year-round giving, whether it's through, so that we have the ability to respond to organizations that are find themselves in an emergency situation where without the funding, they wouldn't be able to step in the way that you did. And that's what we hope that we were able to do with the grant funding that we provided to you last year.
Well, I think it's very important for donors to understand that, there's a process. The first needs to be a need, of course, for a rescue. And when you see animals suffering in enclosures, not being fed properly, not being cared for properly, but also knowing that there's eventually an end to this operation over there. For me, as the founder and as the director of this organization, I then have to start thinking, what can we do? First of all, can we actually materialize the rescue? Can we build the enclosures? Is there going to be money for it? Is there going to be money for long term? Are we able to sustain actually the care on the longer term? That's one thing. But then I also have to make sure I get the permission from the authorities, which is not always easy in Asian countries. And where do I start? Am I going to start first with finding the funds and then get the permission from the government, or the other way around? I get the permission from the government, I can't find the funding, I lose face to the government, and I also have a serious issue. The other way around, exactly the same, when I ask for money from an organization, and then I cannot materialize because the government won't give me the permission to rescue. I got that money and I got to give it back, and I lose my face. So it's a very tough one for us to work, and that's, I think, what's been great with Asia Wild is that we've been in touch actually on a daily, more than once daily basis during that process. And basically when we knew that Asia Wild was able to sponsor, to actually donate that money to make this happen, we basically said, well, wait with the money until we have the green light as well from the government. When I talk to the government, and I know I've got that green light behind me, it made me very confident to say to the government, we're going to make it happen. We're going to do it the proper way. So, and this was actually, I think, quite an ideal and uncommon situation, but very, very good for us that we could, you know, with that backing of Asia Wild, we knew if we get the green light, yes, we can do it, and we could do it within a couple of weeks' time starting. So that was absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's I think that working with a funder like Asia Wild, a grant maker like Asia Wild, where that's all we do. We focus on animals, particularly in Asia, but rescues, and we are aware and understand that delicate balance with the government, and being able to prove to the government that you have the money to be able to do it right makes a huge difference. And if it had fallen through because the government changed their mind and decided to go in a different way, it would not have affected, you know, we're trying to educate and have events like this so that we can educate our supporters about how complicated that process is. That doesn't mean that your organization wasn't capable, that the government sometimes just doesn't make those decisions. Would you say that the Thai government has been helpful? Are they supportive of animal conservation and animal rescue programs like you, or is it a challenge?
Currently, we're very lucky. We have a Director General of the Department of National Parks and Wildlife who is directly working under the minister, who is very positive about working with NGOs. You know, during the process of the discussions on the rescue of Highland Farm, some of government officials said, well, if you get the money to build those enclosures, you got to build them at our facilities. And I'm like, well, I can't do that because I cannot guarantee the care and the further care of the animals, the feeding, and etc. And I think my sponsors won't allow it. They won't be happy with that. The Director General and the Head of Wildlife, Kun Padet, actually have been very supportive. They love it at the moment. As soon as they saw that we could actually take care of these gibbons very well, they came in and said, okay, you're going to get 12 tigers and 3 leopards as well that we're going to take away somewhere else. So, and that was a whole different challenge at the same time. So I would say currently very supportive, but of course that can change. A change in government, another political party in charge that maybe doesn't like foreigners working within Thailand or don't really care about the conservation of wildlife. It could be corruption. You know, there are unfortunately also corrupt officials that might say, well, you know, if you want what you want, you got to pay me some money. That does happen. And we won't entertain that request. So it's you know, let me say that currently it's going really well. My contacts with the government within the parliament and the meetings at parliament are also very good at the moment. So I think we're in a period at the moment that I can say that everything is going very smooth. You know, I've been arrested in the years past. I mean, in 2006 and also in 2012 and in 2014, I've been actually arrested and put in jail in Thailand for rescuing wild animals.
Oh my goodness.
And after I took the case to the Supreme Court, I won the case, and that's when they made me a parliamentary advisor. They asked me how much money I was going to sue them for. I said, well, if I'm going to sue anybody for money, if I'm going to sue the government for money, I can't work in this country any longer. I might get rich, but I can't work here any longer. Yeah. So they asked me what I wanted to do, and I said, well, I want to change the law. I want to make sure that the law gets better. I want to close the loopholes, and I want to have openings for NGOs and people that mean well to be able to assist and help in caring for wildlife. And Article 86 under the Wildlife Preservation Act of Thailand actually stipulates exactly that. Funny enough, they called it Article Edwin because I've been the one pushing for that one for many years. Wow. And the Thais laugh about it because, yeah, I've been really pushing for that over the years. So, you know, after starting a rescue center, the way I worked on fighting against the system and fighting against corruption for many years, I think it was Mahatma Gandhi who said something 70, 80 years ago that if you want to change the system, people will laugh at you. Eventually, when you start changing things, people will find you, and when they see you're making a difference, they will join you. And I think we went through that over the years, from people making a mockery out of us to fighting us, and people are now currently joining us. And I think it's about time after 23 years.
Yeah, exactly. That's amazing. Did you, I don't know, did you have a video or anything that you wanted to share, or?
I actually, this is the video. But this is Highland Farm.
Okay.
This is how we found the animals there. These were the
Mhm.
enclosures. You see a white-handed gibbon here, and another white-handed gibbon. This is a female. These were the ones that were kept in these enclosures. And this is a stub-tail macaque. She's quite old. She's about 30 years old. You can see her teeth are not that good anymore.
You came in with quite the crew.
This is where we're building the enclosures with your funds.
36-hour rescue. Wow. Save 15 primates. Since moving them into the to WFFT, have you lost any as a result of the condition that they were in, or have most of them
No,
survived?
we have not lost any of the animals. I'm going to actually turn off the music. So we haven't lost any of the animals. All of them are still alive. And to be honest, none of them are sick. We had
That's
one gibbon,
wonderful.
Max. Let's see. There you go. So yeah, this is the one. I was actually going to show you what I see in the morning when I wake up here. This is just nothing to do with your rescue, but this is right here where I am currently.
Wow. That's what you see out your window right now?
Yeah, that's what I see right on my window right now. It's a bit dry at the moment. This is in the green season, but
What a wonderful life for those elephants.
yeah, they have a huge enclosure. You see gibbons on the left in the island.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, but that's a gibbon island.
That's fantastic. And I know you have you mentioned earlier about the Tigers Rescue.
Yeah.
Is that the biggest push that you have going on right now?
Well, yes, I think I'll just stop sharing the screen now if I know how to do that. I don't know how to do that. I'll stop share. Okay, there we are. The Tiger Rescue, and actually getting it all ready is oh, how do I turn off that sound? I think 1 second, I think it's still playing. I need to close this here.
We can't hear it. I'm sure it's annoying you, but we can't hear it.
It's gone now.
I can't.
I closed the window. No, yeah, you're right. The Tiger and Leopard Rescue is of course a massive operation. We have some land currently that we're turning into adding to the sanctuary, and I hope that will be ready in the next, before the end of this month. So actually in the coming week. And then we pick up more tigers and more leopards. So that is still an ongoing issue. Besides that, we are working on a coalition of industry, government, NGOs, and farmers to stop the use of pigtail macaques in the coconut picking industry. Mm-hmm. In the US, I know it's been an issue with some of the supermarkets and department stores to stop selling Thai products made of coconut, as PETA has been attacking the industry in Thailand already for a couple of years, I think almost 4 years now. I finally have the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Agriculture, Department of National Parks, the Ministry of Natural Resources, the industry, the exporters of coconut products, and the farmers all together now in a coalition. And we are now starting a project, which is going to be quite a big project. It's almost $1 million over 10 years to phase out the use of these macaques in this coconut industry. Wow. It's a big project. It's a big undertaking. Of course, it's over 10 years, so it's not impossible, but we're slowly now looking for options. The coconut industry already promised about 30% of that budget to be filling up to pay for it. So that's already a start. From the government, I don't expect much, to be honest. As an NGO, getting money from government agencies in Thailand I think it's never happened.
Yeah.
That would be wishful thinking, but we're slowly, putting out our little questions and asking people's opinions on how to go ahead with that one. So I have my fingers crossed, but I hope this year we can start that project. We have a piece of land next to our rescue center, which is very nice, still with a lot of trees. So we could actually house these animals in a very natural area. The land is not that expensive. It's actually relatively cheap, actually. So I'm slowly starting to work on that as our next project. So our tigers and this. And very thrilled, to be honest, there's an MOU on the way, a memorandum of understanding between us and the government to have gibbons to release back to the wild in the national park area behind WFFT. And that's, of course, the best rescue possible. I mean,
Exactly.
Very often people ask me, what's the best kind of rescue for you when an animal survives? I said, no, when an animal goes back into the wild, that's my best rescue. I'd rather, and this sounds maybe strange to some people that really love animals and want them to live as long as possible, but I'd rather see an animal 5 years in the trees than 20 years in a cage.
Yeah.
And if they can reproduce in the wild and their offspring lives in the wild, then I think from a conservation point of view, we're very successful. So that's the ultimate goal. Yeah.
And I think the last time you and I talked one-on-one, you mentioned that you take them from the enclosures that you built for the Gibbons Rescue, and then you when they're ready and they seem capable, you move them to the islands.
That's right.
And then those ones, after they've had experience on the islands and they show success at manipulating nature on their own, those are the ones that are primed to be relocated.
Yeah, gibbons are actually high canopy primates. They don't really come down from the trees. They don't even come down to drink water. They get water from the trees, from the leaves and everything, and dew in the morning. They get from fruits. So yeah, when you put an animal like a gibbon back in the forest and they start dwelling on the ground where all kind of animals are that might be a threat to them, it makes no sense. So you have to train these animals. I always tell people the more intelligent an animal is, and gibbons are intelligent, the more intelligent an animal is, the more difficult it is to make them change to new environment and changes. It's I don't know how to explain this, but it's a bit like, when you think about it, if a dog needs 2 weeks to stop pooing in the house, why does a child take 4 years? Well, they're much more clever than a dog. So why?
Interesting.
This is the approach I have to it usually is I tell people an animal that's a bit stupid, like a snake or a turtle, they'll immediately find a way to sustain. But more intelligent animals need more training, need more time.
Interesting. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, I want to be mindful of your time and all of our audience's time. So I do have one final question that has come up. Do you have a particular animal that you have rescued or that you were not able to rescue that really impacted you in some way and the work that you do?
I have to be honest that about 10 years ago, I decided not to get too close to animals anymore. Every time you get close to these animals and you lose it, it's like losing a family member or a good friend. So I try not to get too close to them anymore, just to protect myself. But it took me 7 years to get Canoe. That's a chimpanzee that lives with us. Canoe lived for 32 years in a 1.5 by 2.5 meter enclosure. That's tiny. I mean, I know you guys think in yards or feet or whatever, but that's basically 8 feet by 6 feet or something, the enclosure. For 32 years, he was in there. They couldn't even go in to clean it. He was living on his own dirt for 32 years. I found him in 2013 for the first time. I organized a raid with the police to go in and to take him away, but, they couldn't take him away. There was no legal ways to take him out. in 2020, just at the beginning of COVID, actually in April 2020, a police officer called me from Bangkok and said, "Are you Edwin Wiek? Are you the guy with the rescue, blah, blah, blah?" And I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "I am currently at a house and there's a chimpanzee in this enclosure and it needs to be gone from here in 3 days or we have to kill it." I asked him, "What's the name of is that the name of the chimpanzee, Canoe?" He said, "Yes, it's Canoe." I said, "I'm on my way." 7 years I had to wait. I went there and he remembered me. I've been there a few times over those 7 years. He remembered me. He reached out his hand out of the enclosure and I told him we're going to take him away. And he was so gentle. He was so nice. He was by then, over 30 years old already. And he was in that cage for so long. I decided, because I had no enclosure for him, I decided to take him with the enclosure. And we sedated him, put the whole enclosure, I had to cut the roof off and cut the feet of the enclosure, put it on the back of a big truck with a crane. We have a crane truck, luckily. We sedated him, took him out of the enclosure. Once he started waking, put him back in the enclosure on the back of the truck and took him back to WFFT. The whole trip, I sit next to the enclosure, holding his hand, talking to him. He was sitting there, looking around at the streets, the people, the road, the sun, anything he hasn't seen before. And he came in. It took us about 3 weeks to build him a first step enclosure so he could actually walk around, put a lot of enrichment in it. And then again, we had to wait another 7 months to build the island for him. He is the kindest person I know. He is so clever. He is so gentle. He is so lovely. I can play with him. I can hold him. He holds me. He grooms me. They're dangerous animals.
Yeah.
After what happened to this animal over all his life, the way he was treated for so long, that he survived 32 years in that tiny shit cage, I'm sorry to say that, for so long, and that he still has sympathy for humans, that he forgives humans for what they've done to him, I find that absolutely amazing. Every time I see him, and every time I sit with him and I talk with him, I am amazed about the amount of forgiveness these animals can give and the amount of love that these animals need and also give. So it's, I hope he's still with us for a very long time.
Oh, that's amazing. That kind of, and I can imagine that. I can understand why you have to take care of yourself, because you can develop those types of relationships with so many of them. You deal with so many animals, and they really get into the hearts, and every animal caregiver that and people that work with them firsthand, they all have those special stories. And thank you for sharing that with us. And I hope that he continues to live and has a wonderful relationship. Thank you so much for giving him that life that he so desperately deserved. So
I am probably one of the luckiest people on this planet. I live the dream. I have never expected that this foundation, this project would grow that big. And also that we will be able to do this for the animals, because of course, when you have animals taken in and you have some kind of limited care for them, limited quality of life, it's of course very frustrating. But I see that he has probably one of the nicest enclosures for chimpanzees in Asia at the moment. I wish he had some friends. That's the only thing. I wish he had some friends that of his own kind. He has friends. Sean, our main keeper for dangerous animals, Sean Kemp, he is actually from Texas. He's an American, and he spends a lot of time with, animals like Canoe, the chimp. But I wish he had, friends of his own kind. We tried to send him to Africa, but nobody wants him. And there's, of course, a surplus of chimpanzees around the world in rescue centers and zoos. So it's very difficult to do that. But okay, I think where he came from, how he used to live, and where he's living now, he's good. But I wish he had some friends, that's all.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Edwin, I cannot thank you enough for getting up so early and sharing all of the information.
It's fine.
It's tomorrow morning for you. I can't thank you enough. I'm so excited to introduce you to our supporters and to launch this series and to be able to do these types of in-depth conversations with all of our grantees, because as you all can see, there is no shortage of of passion and commitment and effective programs like Wildlife Friends Foundation Thailand is just one of the 14 organizations that we made grants to in 2023. And yet there were over $2 million in requests that went unfunded, not because they weren't good programs, but because there just isn't enough money to make all of the projects happen and go forward. And one of the things we talk about on staff and with the board is, imagine if we didn't have to pick and choose which animals we could save. Imagine if we had enough to actually save all of them. And the reason we're presenting Wild Talks is so that we can share your stories, Edwin, with our community of donors and give our supporters the opportunity to see the impact that their donation has on thousands of animals in need. So thank you for coming. I just want to thank everyone for coming and for joining us tonight. We are going to be profiling a different organization every month. March, in honor of World Bear Day, we will be focusing on our bear grantees from last year. So watch your emails for registration information.
No questions?
Yeah, I did check privately with Peggy, and we don't have any. I covered all of the questions that we had when I was doing. So
okay.
So I think we're good on questions. If we did not cover your question, please let me know, and we'll make sure to get Edwin to write up an answer, and we'll email it to you. But I think we did actually cover everything that was asked. And I just want all of our supporters to consider making a donation early in the year. Most donors support organizations and NGOs at the end of the year, but funding is needed all year long, especially for emergency projects like the Gibbons Rescue at the last minute. And so we appreciate all your help. If you want to learn more about the grantees that we gave to in 2023, whose projects are happening this year, visit our website at asiawild.org/impact. Let me see if I can, hang on one second. Let me see if I can share this screen. Yeah, there you go. And if you would like to find out more information about ways that you can help and make a donation, visit our website at asiawild.org/wild. And just thank you very much, Edwin, and thank you everyone for joining us. It's been an exciting and a couple of technical mistakes, but I think it went off very smoothly, and your stories are inspirational, Edwin. Thank you. Thank you for joining us, and thank you everyone that's been listening in.
Hey, Jill.
Thank you, Mary and just commented. Thank you very much, Mary. And I, as I said, I'm one of the luckiest people on the planet. So,
Peggy, what were you saying?
No, that was it. I wanted to make sure he saw that what Marianne had written. So,
okay, yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful evening, and we will be in touch with more updates as the year progresses.
Thank you, everyone from Thailand. Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye-bye. Bye.